In our vast and interconnected world, it's almost impossible to imagine a place that remains completely untouched by modern civilization. We've mapped the deepest oceans and climbed the highest mountains, yet there exists an island shrouded in mystery, a place where time seems to have stood still for thousands of years. This is North Sentinel Island, a small forested landmass in the Bay of Bengal. It's a place that appears on our maps, but it remains one of the last truly unknown territories on Earth. The island is forbidden, not by treasure maps or ancient curses, but by the will of its people and the laws of a modern nation that has chosen to protect them. It represents a living link to a past we can only read about in history books. Located in the Andaman Island archipelago, North Sentinel Island is part of India, yet it operates under its own ancient rules. From the sky, it looks like a paradise, covered in dense green jungle and fringed with pristine white sand beaches and coral reefs. But this idyllic appearance hides a profound and deliberate isolation. For countless generations, the island's inhabitants, known as the Sentinelese, have lived entirely on their own without any contact with the outside world. They're one of the last uncontacted peoples on the planet, a small community that has successfully resisted all attempts by outsiders to land on their shores. Their home is a fortress, protected not by walls, but by their fierce independence and the vast, unforgiving sea that surrounds them. The Indian government has established a law that makes it illegal for anyone to approach the island. A 5-kilometer exclusion zone has been created around its coast, a protective barrier designed to keep outsiders away. This law isn't meant to punish, but to preserve. The Sentinelese have no immunity to common diseases like the flu or measles, which could be devastating to their entire population. An illness that might be mild for us could wipe out their community in a matter of weeks. The barrier is therefore a shield, protecting them from the invisible dangers that we as outsiders carry with us. It's a recognition that our curiosity could unintentionally lead to their destruction, a tragedy that must be avoided at all costs. The mystery of North Sentinel Island captivates our imagination precisely because it is so rare. In an age of global information where every corner of the planet is documented on the internet, this island remains a blank spot. We know almost nothing about the Sentinelese language, their beliefs, their social structure, or their customs. What little we do know has been gathered from a distance through careful observation from boats or helicopters. They are hunter-gatherers, using bows and arrows to hunt animals in the forest, and simple canoes to gather fish and crabs from the shallow waters around their island. Their existence poses a fundamental question. What have we lost in our rush towards progress? And what can we learn from a people who have chosen a different path? The people of North Sentinel Island, the Sentinelese, are considered direct descendants of the first human populations to emerge from Africa. It's believed they've lived in the Andaman Islands for up to 60,000 years, a staggering length of time that's honestly difficult for us to fully comprehend. For all these millennia, they've survived and thrived in their island home, developing a culture and way of life perfectly adapted to their environment. They've weathered storms, navigated the seas, and sustained themselves without agriculture or metalworking, relying instead on their deep knowledge of the natural world. They're a testament to human resilience and our species' incredible ability to adapt and endure through the ages, a living fragment of our ancient past. Their isolation is so complete that we don't even know what they call themselves or their island. The name Sentinelese was given to them by outsiders. From the few distant observations we have, we can see they're a strong and healthy people. They build simple temporary shelters and live in small community groups. Their primary tools are bows, arrows, and javelins, which they craft with incredible skill from materials found on the island. These are not just tools for hunting, they're also their primary means of defense. For the Sentinelese, any approaching boat or aircraft is a potential threat, and their response has always been to defend their territory with a shower of arrows, a clear and unambiguous signal to stay away. This fierce defense of their home isn't born of aggression for its own sake, but from a desire to protect their way of life. For thousands of years, their world has been self-contained and predictable. The arrival of outsiders with strange technologies, unfamiliar appearances, and unknown intentions represents a profound disruption. Their hostility is a protective instinct, a way of preserving the world they know from the unpredictable dangers of the unknown. They've seen outsiders before, and those encounters have likely reinforced their belief that contact brings nothing but trouble. Their isolation isn't an accident, it's a choice, a deliberate and consistent rejection of the world beyond their shores. We need to understand that their world is complete without us. They don't need our technology, our medicine, or our culture to live full and meaningful lives. They've got their own systems of knowledge, their own social rules, and their own ways of understanding the universe. To assume they're primitive or in need of saving is to view them through the narrow lens of our own modern values. Their existence challenges us to reconsider what it means to be successful as a society. They're a reminder that there are many different ways to be human, and that progress doesn't always mean moving in the same direction. Their world is whole, and it's our responsibility to ensure it remains that way. Attempts by the outside world to make peaceful contact with the Sentinelese have a long and often tragic history. These encounters have almost always ended in misunderstanding and violence, reinforcing the islanders' determination to remain isolated. One of the earliest documented visits was in 1880 by a British colonial officer named Maurice Vidal Portman. He led an armed expedition that landed on the island and, after several days of searching, captured an elderly couple and 4 children. He brought them to Port Blair, the main town of the Andaman Islands. Tragically, the elderly couple soon fell ill and died, likely from diseases to which they had no immunity. The children were then returned to the island, an act that may have introduced deadly pathogens to the community. In the decades that followed, most encounters were accidental, often involving shipwrecks. Survivors who washed ashore on North Sentinel Island were met with hostility and were never seen again. After India gained independence, the government made several official attempts to establish friendly contact, beginning in the late 1960s. These expeditions, known as contact missions, involved leaving gifts like coconuts, dolls, and iron tools on the beaches. For years, the Sentinelese would show their displeasure by firing arrows at the boats, though they would sometimes collect the gifts after the visitors had retreated to a safe distance. These missions highlighted the immense difficulty of bridging the gap between two vastly different worlds. One of the few instances of seemingly peaceful interaction occurred in the early 1990s, led by an Indian anthropologist named Triloknath Pandit. On one expedition, the Sentinelese people approached the boat without their weapons and accepted coconuts directly from the hands of the team members. It was a breakthrough moment, a brief and cautious gesture of acceptance. However, these friendly gift-dropping missions were eventually stopped in 1997. The Indian government concluded that continuing the visits posed too great a risk to the islanders' health and well-being. The potential for introducing a deadly epidemic was too high, and it was decided that the wisest and most ethical course of action was to leave them completely alone. The dangers of approaching the island were tragically highlighted in 2006, when 2 fishermen, who had illegally moored their boat near the island to sleep, were killed by the islanders after their anchor came loose and their boat drifted ashore. More recently, in 2018, an American missionary illegally traveled to the island with the intention of converting the Sentinelese to Christianity. Despite warnings from local fishermen, he made several attempts to land and was ultimately killed by the tribe. These incidents serve as a stark and sobering reminder that the island is not a tourist destination. The Sentinelese have made their wishes clear for centuries. They want to be left alone, and any attempt to violate their isolation will be met with force. The primary reason to leave the Sentinelese undisturbed is for their own survival. Their complete isolation means they haven't developed immunity to the common diseases that the rest of the world has lived with for centuries. A simple cold, influenza, or measles could spread like wildfire through their community, potentially leading to the extinction of their entire culture. Protecting them from our germs is the most important ethical consideration. We have a moral duty to ensure their continued existence, which means respecting their quarantine. Our curiosity, however well-intentioned, can't be allowed to jeopardize the lives of an entire people. Their protection is a matter of life and death, and the only guaranteed way to ensure their safety is to maintain a strict no-contact policy. Beyond the biological risks, leaving them alone is also a matter of cultural preservation. The Sentinelese represent a unique and irreplaceable part of humanity's heritage. They're a window into a way of life that has vanished from the rest of the planet. Forcing contact upon them would inevitably destroy their culture, language, and ancient knowledge, which has been passed down through countless generations. Their society would be shattered by the introduction of modern technology, economies, and belief systems. By leaving them be, we're preserving a living library of human experience, a culture that has evolved on its own terms. Their world has intrinsic value, and it deserves to be protected from the homogenizing force of globalization. Respecting the island's isolation also protects outsiders. The Sentinelese have consistently demonstrated that they view uninvited visitors as a threat and will defend their territory with lethal force. The exclusion zone established by the Indian government isn't just to protect the islanders, it's also to prevent further loss of life among those who might foolishly attempt to go there. The message is clear. Approaching North Sentinel Island is extremely dangerous. By respecting the law and the wishes of the Sentinelese people, we ensure the safety of everyone involved. It's a simple act of acknowledging boundaries, both legal and moral, and understanding that some places in the world should remain off-limits. In the end, North Sentinel Island teaches us a profound lesson about respect for the unknown and for the diversity of human culture. It forces us to confront the limits of our own knowledge and the arrogance of assuming our way of life is the only one of value. The island's mystery is part of its importance. By choosing to leave it unsolved, we're making a powerful statement. We're choosing to prioritize the rights and well-being of a small indigenous community over our own desire to explore and understand. In a world that's constantly shrinking, there's a deep wisdom in letting some places remain untouched, allowing a different human story to continue, undisturbed and on its own terms.